Welcome back to Alpine Garage Sports, folks. We're in the garage today, and we are talking today about discipline. And where did the discipline go in Colorado football? We're going to be bringing you a couple of reels from Reach the People Media and Colorado football to try to help explain it. Coach is going to give us some insight into Colorado football, and we're going to come back for some commentary. All that and more on this episode of Alpine Garage Sports. All right, guys, so this is not a negative video. We are not going to be negative in this video. We're going to be constructive in this video and then talk about what we're going to do in UCLA to reverse our fortunes with these penalties. As we all know, 17 penalties for 127 yards. That is our highest this year and absolutely ridiculous, seeing as we repeated the same penalty over and over and over again. In fact, let's go first to Coach Prime, which Darius from Reach the People Media caught in the team meeting talking to the players about the penalties, about who created the penalties, and about the discipline of the team, and also about what's coming up for break. We're going on break here this week, and he wants to make sure that the players don't do something that's going to be detrimental to their playing time.
These are 5 gases: false start, McCaskill, unsportsmanlike conduct, Hunter, hold and Harden, false start, Harden, hold and Bailey, intentional grounding, Shador, defensive penalties, personal foul, Dominique, offsides, Harris, holding, Miller, unnecessary roaches, Hunter, passing the first, Stoutmeyer, unsportsmanlike conduct, Hopkins. Those are all 5 gases. We seem to have forgotten that on practice days that breakfast is mandatory. Offensively, who wasn't at breakfast this morning? Stand up, please. We expect you to act professionally and represent your family name and this university. If you decide to go home, we got a break coming up. I don't want y'all to get in trouble. I want y'all doing nothing stupid. These are the don't do's, okay? Don't do anything that can cost you opportunities. Give me one example that you would do that would cost you opportunity to play at this wonderful university. Yes, sir, y'all.
Like getting a DUI.
Yep, you definitely off the team. You do that.
Coach Prime in the press conference heard that we had 17 penalties for 127 yards. And you could tell he was really surprised by that. There was probably so many penalties that we couldn't keep count. I know I didn't keep count. I just knew that we were over the amount that we had at Oregon. But before we do the commentary on that, let's talk about where we have been on penalties this year, because it's been a roller coaster ride. We started out the year very disciplined in TCU, which is what we needed to do. We needed to be disciplined there in order to have any chance to beat TCU. And we were. We had the least amount of penalties for the least amount of yardage this year. 6 for 35. 6 penalties. 6 penalties is not bad. I remember TCU was throwing up penalties left and right, which is one of the reasons why we beat them, because they gave us good field position based off of those penalties. And here's where the slide starts. Nebraska next game, 9 for 80. CSU, 10 for 87. Still starting to slide. Then we go into Oregon undefeated, and we commit 12 for 106. All right, crack the whip. We're back. USC, 7 for 60. That was a good game, and we almost beat USC at home. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that we didn't penalize ourselves a lot. We were able to keep momentum in the game because of the lack of penalties. But then we started to slide for ASU for 8 for 65, and then obviously Stanford with fell on our face, 17 for 127. So as you can see there, started off good, went to Oregon, got shellacked. Went back down, started off good, had Stanford come to Folsom, fell on our face. There's a pattern here, okay? And that's what I'm saying. And this is the light at the end of the tunnel. Obviously, after the Oregon game, we pulled out a lot of things out of the Oregon game as to the reason why we lost. And one of those things was penalties. We could not get any momentum whatsoever because there was always a penalty that basically stopped our progress or allowed Oregon to go and score a touchdown. Penalties, penalties, penalties. When you have that many penalties, it affects the game, right? So after the Oregon game, cracked the whip. USC came to town. We were very clean for USC, and we could have beat them. We could have beat them. The penalties did not hurt us as much in that game as they have in the past games. We gained a little bit of confidence. We go to ASU, we win. A little bit more penalties. Now we're going into Stanford. We think we're going to absolutely shellac Stanford, and we commit horrific penalties in that game. And 100% was the reason why we lost that game. You can say 13 went in there and cooked us, and he did. If we didn't have 127 yards of penalties, we would not have kept giving Stanford time after time after time. New rebirth, new rebirth, new rebirth. And it created momentum for them, and that was a problem for us. So now that we know we did that, Coach Prime came out in the presser and the team meeting and admonished the penalties, okay? And then went even as far as saying, hey, we're about to go on break. You guys need to be very careful what you do on break because it could affect your playing time. I mean, it has even gotten so, what's the word I want to use? Serious, that when he said, what could you guys do on your off time to affect playing time? And one of the players said, a DUI. A DUI. Yes, a DUI will keep you from playing. But I think what Coach was talking about is there's smaller things that you can do on your time off that could affect your playing time, that you have to be super, super disciplined. Yeah, don't get a DUI, okay? They even talked about don't go somewhere with somebody who has a gun. I mean, we're extreme in these cases, in these meetings, but I think probably what the overall meaning was is that there are a lot of things that you can do on your off time that could get you in trouble and not have playing time in this next game. He even brought up not showing up for breakfast in the morning, which is obviously a very big part of their program, as he wants to make sure the team has their breakfast together, starts their day off together, and people aren't even able to do that at this point. So obviously the team discipline has gone awry, and Coach is trying to get it pulled back together again. In 2 weeks, I have absolutely zero doubt that we're going to be able to do that. We showed that we did it going into the season for TCU, and on the whiplash that happened after the Oregon game going into USC, again, a very disciplined game. It's going to happen again against UCLA. We're going to go to UCLA in front of a sold-out crowd, and we're going to be clean in this game. I can tell you that right now. We're not going to have any personal fouls, and I'll bet money that we don't have one single illegal substitution penalty. So if we take those out of this last game, we win it. So let's talk about not having those at UCLA, and we're going to win it. Keep a clean game. You know Coach is putting a lot of pressure on this. You know he's putting a lot of pressure on this. This comes down to coaching. When we're practicing in these next 2 weeks, we have to be able to call in those one-on-ones the penalties that are happening there. And we have to be able to call the holds that are happening in practice as well. It's a fine line between being aggressive and getting penalties. And when we're not calling them in practice, it's going to happen in the game. So my assumption is that we're going to be calling those more in practice and getting the practices to be a little bit cleaner so that we know where the lines are, where we're supposed to be. We want to be super aggressive, but we don't want to cross that line into penalties. Because the last thing we need to do is give UCLA better field position and help them continue their series because of our bad habits. I'm 100% bought into the fact that the players and the coaches understand where we went off the tracks as far as penalties are concerned in the Stanford game. And I 100% believe, and we're going to do a video on that right after the UCLA game to prove the fact that we can come out and be clean, and we can play a clean game with few penalties and give ourselves a chance to win against USC. That is a wrap from Alpine Garage Sports. If you haven't already subscribed, please join the Alpine Army. Get in here into the chat. Let's talk about these penalties. Let's talk about the things we need to be seeing going forward to UCLA. We're going to be talking about that a lot more this week. We will see you in the next video. And if you haven't already heard, the UCLA game is sold out.